Do you trust the government? Would you be surprised if the authorities were hiding something big? Now more than ever, there's pressure on our leaders to reveal what they know to the wider public, and especially when it comes to UFOs. Over the years, there have been countless claims of an official cover-up, denying the truth about what's really out there. And some theories claim it could even go all the way to the very top, to supreme beings and divine entities. This is Unveiled, and today we're answering the extraordinary question: is the government hiding proof of UFOs and God?
Do you need the big questions answered? Are you constantly curious? Then why not subscribe to Unveiled for more clips like this one, and ring the bell for more thought-provoking content.
If intelligent alien life is out there, and particularly if it has ever visited Earth, then it's a good bet it'll be carrying some super advanced technology. Consider a potential alien ship that turns up here from some distant star system or galaxy. It would have to be capable of crossing the vast distances of interstellar space, something we're not even close to achieving. But naturally, if any of that were possible, then we'd definitely be interested in finding out how. Governments sure have a history of concealing things related to UFOs. In America, the most famous example is probably the handling of the Roswell crash in 1947. Over the years, the official story has been changed from it being a flying saucer, then a weather balloon, then a nuclear surveillance device, while doubts remain about even that answer, and the claims of extraterrestrial have never truly gone away. Elsewhere, according to reports from the UK National Archives released in 2010, wartime Prime Minister Winston Churchill had ordered claims of UFO sightings in Britain to be censored and kept secret, in an effort to avoid panic in the general population. We've seen something similar to that more recently, back in America again, with claims by an ex-Pentagon official who had previously headed the once classified Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. He alleges that the government had forced him to keep secret the UFO details uncovered by AATIP. Aside from the supposed fears of inducing public panic, which in itself is challenged by some as an unfair and unrealistic prediction of what the reaction would be, another repeatedly cited reason for keeping UFOs secret is that governments would rather reverse engineer them without the rest of the world watching on. There are a number of first-hand testimonies to this end, with so-called anti-gravity tech continually brought up. Broadly, anti-gravity refers to the potential to control gravity, so that an object or location is free from its effects, like shuttles are in deep space. According to the leading theories we currently have on gravity, including the equations of Einstein and Newton, anti-gravity seemingly isn't possible. But in a modern world where science is desperately trying to marry up macro physics with quantum mechanics, there are growing suspicions that there's a lot we don't know, including that anti-grav actually could be possible. Talk of anti-gravity and gravity control and propulsion generally appeared quite suddenly in documents and reports, especially in America, not long after Roswell, in the mid-20th century. And although the details of some are still kept under wraps, several programs are said to have formed around that time, some official, some not so, to study anti-gravity and potentially build tech that's capable of it. Next question, did those programs succeed? One of the most famous accounts comes from Bob Lazar, who claims to have been hired as a physicist in the 1980s at S4, a secretive research base near Area 51. Lazar is something of a divisive figure, with the US government insisting that his story is untrue. And even some of the schools that Lazar says he attended while studying for his position citing zero records of him. Nevertheless, Lazar himself asserts that the government has tried to systematically erase his past and has continually refused to back down. The reason why he's so controversial? He cites that while working at S4, he saw real alien technology, and specifically anti-gravity-enabled UFOs. Across numerous reports and interviews, he recalls seeing spaceships with anti-gravity cylinders and setups, essentially allowing them to impossibly fly in any direction in an instant. And the key driver behind the spectacular things Lazar claims to have seen was a previously unknown element, Element 115. Fast forward a few years, and scientists have now managed to create 115 just on regular old planet Earth, but have so far been unable to keep it stable. Lazar insists, though, that it's this mysterious product which powers alien ships that the government already knows about. And in fact, one idea is that the development of 115 in recent times might perhaps be traced back to Lazar's days on his top-secret work, when the team he was part of were allegedly tasked with reverse engineering the captured ET vehicles. Unsurprisingly, there have been countless dismissals of Lazar's claims over time, with his ideas being brandished as conspiracy theory only. But his supporters argue that Lazar's case has actually been strengthened in recent years. Rather than proven false, he's been backed up with further evidence. Around the early 2000s, video clips began emerging from within the U.S. Air Force and Navy, seemingly detailing the same kinds of mysterious flying objects that were allegedly under study in the 1980s. Apparent airborne vehicles, seemingly capable of bending the laws of physics, potentially via anti-gravity technology. With one of the most famous examples being the USS Nimitz encounter with a Tic Tac UFO in 2004, demonstrating instant acceleration and flawless sharp turns, but seemingly without wings or a recognizable propulsion system. The Tic Tac has come to be one of the most enigmatic UFO sightings of recent times. In 2021, the official UAP report released by the U.S. authorities further brought it and more than 100 other similar cases under the microscope. Across land and sea, we're seemingly seeing more and more would-be probes or ships moving and behaving in unprecedented ways. So much so that a 2022 multi-authored research paper published in the journal EPL argued that the mysterious capabilities shown in UFO footage really could be explained by anti-gravity technology. For supporters of Bob Lazar, it's as though the rest of the world is finally catching on to what he's been saying for decades. And while they've allegedly done so in the past, it's getting harder and harder for governments to hush up the evidence. Full disclosure, perhaps, is just around the corner. Advocates claim that there's a pretty clear timeline to follow. Something crashes in Roswell in the 1940s. Shortly afterwards, science in general starts to research anti-grav tech. Then, in the late 80s, Bob Lazar claims to have seen anti-gravity UFOs in real life, painting a reasonably accurate picture of how we'd now expect one to work. And today, we have footage from all across America and the world, apparently, of these things in action. It isn't only Bob Lazar who's defying the official line either. Other serving and former military members have voiced their beliefs regarding potential ET vehicles housed in the U.S. and elsewhere. The naval aviator Donald Kehoe and Army officer Philip J. Corso, for example, believe on record that there has already been significant progress made with UFO tech and that it's potentially already been reverse engineered from existing machines. It's a topic that in the past might have been passed off as nonsense or unscientific, but in today's world, that's no longer the case. Whole teams of scientists and academics at major institutions, ranging from NASA to Harvard to MIT, have reportedly hosted meetings and events specifically to discuss anti-gravity and the potential links between it and UFOs. Importantly, a UFO doesn't automatically mean an alien vehicle, but never before has the ET concept been so talked about at the top tables of research. Finally, though, let's consider the situation if there is already proof of anti-gravity out there. Why cover it up? That ex-Pentagon former AATIP official from earlier, Luis Elizondo, has previously claimed that he was made to keep evidence of UFOs secret because of reasons like religious concerns, the potential for mass panic, and fears that UFO science could risk the reputation of those higher up in positions of power. Of course, another possibility is that if any government were to have knowledge of anti-gravity or any other similarly advanced technology, then they'd perhaps want to keep it secret to avoid other governments, states, and nations learning all about it. As much as anything else, this kind of thing would double up as top-level military weapon research. For now, there's no hard, officially verified evidence to say that any of this is actually possible or in existence. The general sentiment does appear to be shifting, however. From the worlds of science, the military, and politics, we're getting more and more voices speaking out, seemingly willing to reveal what the official line won't. Theoretical physicist Michio Kaku, for example, while reportedly claiming to have once been hesitant about proposed UFO tech, is said to now be much more accepting of it. He's not alone. With increasing numbers of official reports and investigations being made into the subject, perhaps it's only a matter of time before more revelations come out. It seemingly wouldn't shock the likes of Bob Lazar and his followers, but how would you feel if anti-gravity UFOs were suddenly a present-day reality? It's a brave new world that could be out there. It's just that, according to some, the government is still intent on keeping it to themselves. While we're by now well acquainted with most of the materials and objects on our home planet Earth, there's still so much we don't know about space, and especially about what's circling closest to our world. Most of the random things that exist in Earth's atmosphere are assumed to be debris. But could there be something more intelligent lurking among all that trash? Whenever NASA sends rockets or probes up into space, they're usually equipped with some sort of camera to capture various parts of our solar system on video. Sometimes, then, these feeds are made available to the public, and it's not unusual to see unidentified objects floating around. This is mainly because Earth is covered in a shell of space debris formed from bits of rock and sometimes equipment that's found its way into our atmosphere, broken apart, and now we're stuck with it in orbit. Because of how fast all of this debris is traveling, even the smallest amount does have the potential to cause a catastrophe. If it makes contact with an operating ship, for example, or a space station, it could puncture the walls and trigger a disaster. As such, NASA keeps track of some 27,000 known pieces of debris. It's a mammoth task for the agency, and it's only set to get bigger as humanity seeks to expand its presence in space in the future. Because there's so much junk floating around up there, though, every so often we stumble across something, a particular piece of space debris, that causes a stir down here on the ground, and especially with ufologists and UFO hunters. In this vein, one of the more significant space photos was taken in 1998 during the STS-88 mission on the International Space Station. At first glance, it's perhaps just one photo among many, but there's a growing backstory to this image, because it's believed by some to show the infamous Black Knight satellite. The Black Knight satellite has a seemingly long history, said to date back more than 100 years to 1899, when the esteemed physicist Nikola Tesla was famously staging experiments with radio. During one of those experiments, he reportedly heard a strange transmission echoing back from space. Modern scholars tend to now attribute it to a category of object that was unknown at the time, pulsars, or to it being a transmission from Earth that Tesla wrongly suspected was coming from space. Others, however, believe that what Tesla really experienced was a type of first contact with intelligent extraterrestrial beings via a nearby artificial probe. There's a general idea, then, that such a probe exists around Earth, the Black Knight satellite, and that Tesla accidentally discovered it all those years ago. Before then, though, it's suggested that it may have gone unnoticed for literally thousands of years, with some versions of the legend claiming that the Black Knight first entered Earth's atmosphere some 13,000 years ago. It's really multiple strange instances that have led to the formation of the wider Black Knight theory, though. First, Tesla received his unusual signal. Then again, in the late 1920s, the radio engineer Jürgen Hulse also picked up an unusual transmission that also echoed back after a delay. Hulse's signal was later named long-delayed echoes, and they still don't have a full explanation. Could they have originated from the same place as Tesla's then? And could they really have been beamed by a watching alien probe? In 1960, some 3 decades later, the U.S. Navy becomes involved. It was revealed that the Navy had cataloged a piece of unidentified space debris on radar, but then it turned out that this wasn't exactly the full picture. The Navy admission had really been part of a seeming cover-up to hide the fact that what was actually on radar was an American satellite meant for spying. Nevertheless, at the time, the story became linked to and supportive of a new resurgence of the Black Knight narrative. One Duncan Lunan, a science fiction author, even reportedly went so far as to claim that he had decoded messages from above and that they revealed the existence of a civilization in Epsilon Boötis, a binary star system in the Boötes constellation. Lunan later backed off of these claims, calling them unscientific, but some members of the UFO community still refer back to them. Now, after various apparent incidents in the 19th and 20th centuries, the Black Knight is somewhat entrenched in UFO folklore, with theorists variously claiming that NASA, the world's leading space agency, knows all about it and is communicating with it. Of course, this is not the official line, and NASA has never even hinted that the Black Knight satellite is real. The story is the product of conspiracy claims only, but those claims do reckon that they have visual evidence. The most popular supposed photo of the Black Knight satellite comes from the 1998 STS-88 mission to the International Space Station. This mission was of high importance because it delivered the first U.S. module to the ISS. During the early stages of its construction, the crew were assigned multiple spacewalk missions then, and during one of those, an astronaut snapped a strange object floating above Earth. Again, the official line bore no mention of alien tech. The object in the image is instead said to be a piece of thermal covering or blanket that had drifted off by accident during the astronauts' work. According to NASA, it should have also burned up in the atmosphere shortly after the photo was taken. But regardless, some ufologists quickly connected this image to the various stories of the past to posit that this was the first real sighting of the Black Knight. There have been further claims since, including as recently as 2020, when satellite footage from the Philippines showed a curious object floating in the sky, leading some, including the alien enthusiast Scott C. Waring, to propose that it could be the Black Knight once again. There's another theory that takes a different line, however, pitched by those who believe in the Black Knight satellite but don't believe it's still in orbit. And that's because it was supposedly shot down in 2017 by none other than the infamous group of powerful world leaders known as the Illuminati. Supporters of this idea claim that there exists footage of the event, showing an alien escape pod being triggered from the satellite in amongst a flash of bright white light. The footage, which is said to have been unwittingly leaked, also supposedly shows an Illuminati warplane piloted by elite soldiers blasting the ancient satellite out of the sky. Despite this, however, no debris from the apparent crash was ever recovered, and no solid evidence of either the Illuminati or the alien satellite itself has ever been confirmed. And so the legend and the situation is in a bit of a balance. There are plenty of aspects to the Black Knight story that remain unexplained. But whether they can all be tied together under the idea of there being an extraterrestrial satellite that's hiding over our heads remains to be seen as well. For those who believe that the satellite does exist, the NASA live feeds are where we need to be focusing on, combing through the constant pictures of space in the hope of one day seeing solid proof. NASA itself, of course, has refuted all Black Knight claims. It continues to say that any and all objects seen on camera are nothing more than space debris, of which we're accumulating more and more. If the satellite was ever revealed to be real, then there would clearly be plenty of huge questions in need of answers. Namely, how long has it been up there? And why is it watching us in the first place? Would its discovery by the public trigger the start of an alien Armageddon? Or a new age of space knowledge? For now, though, all we can say is this. The 1998 photograph from the ISS shows, according to NASA, nothing more than a thermal blanket. A misplaced piece of space travel equipment, and not a top-secret alien presence. That explanation just doesn't wash with some onlookers, however, and perhaps it never will. Rather than a blanket, they see evidence of ET surveillance, of an advanced group that's not of this world. Which side do you fall in with?
One observable universe filled with trillions of stars and trillions more planets. So what are the chances that we're the only ones alive? Most researchers agree that alien life should be out there somewhere, but still, where's the proof? Have we simply not found it yet? Or is there something else afoot? There is more to top-level government conspiracy theories than simply Area 51. But when it comes to supposedly hidden aliens, Homey Airport, aka Groom Lake, aka that place that no one's supposed to know about but everyone does, is still a prime location. So much of the modern UFO legend is born out of this isolated corner of the harsh Nevada desert, with claims ranging from live alien autopsies being performed there to exotic ET materials being experimented on there. For today's video, we're interested in the latter, and not only at Area 51. In fact, there's some suggestion that Area 51 has only ever been a smokescreen and distraction, diverting public attention away from what's really happening in the search for aliens. Either that, or it's actually just one part of a much wider pattern, an immense alien route that cuts all the way through the US, known as the 37th parallel. Now, of course, the 37th parallel in general isn't only an American thing. It refers to the global line of latitude that's 37 degrees north of the equator. and it stretches all around the world, passing through northern Africa, southern Europe, Central Asia, and the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. Along the section of the 37th parallel that does pass through the U.S., however, it's been said that there are various and dramatic spikes in UFO activity. In fact, the majority of U.S. UFO sightings seem to happen along this line. Again, as Area 51 can be found close to the parallel, many of the reported cases do lead back to this one iconic base. But there have been others. For example, at Clearwater Lake in Missouri, when two witnesses reportedly viewed a saucer-like vehicle light up red and white and rise vertically above the reservoir, before silently and quickly moving off over the horizon. The sighting allegedly happened in 1973, and like Area 51, Clearwater Lake is also a U.S. military facility. There are other similar cases that continually bring us back to various locations along the 37th parallel. But what's more, there are other notable military locations on or close to the parallel as well, including Fort Knox in Kentucky and even the Pentagon in Virginia, just a little further north. Walk in a straight line from one base to another, and you just so happen to pass numerous claimed UFO sites along that same journey. Some say coincidence, while others insist that there's more to it. And on top of everything else, there's a reported history of thousands of bizarre and disturbing cattle and livestock mutilations occurring all across America, but with the seeming majority of those being discovered along or close to the 37th parallel as well. In many cases, animals have been found slaughtered, but also unusually and deliberately cut into, and sometimes missing certain organs or totally drained of their blood. It's certainly gruesome, but is there another alien link to the story? Again, some are adamant that there is. Much of this stretch of the country passes through remote and rural locations in the southern and western states. There are wide open expanses of land then, with a sometimes very small population of people living there. And yet there has been a steady stream of mutilation cases reported since the mid-20th century at least. The contemporary interest swirling around the 37th parallel largely stems from the work of two people. First, the prominent UFO investigator Chuck Zukowski, and then the successful writer-cum-journalist Ben Mezrich. Mezrich is known for writing works which have gone on to inspire the Hollywood movies 21 in 2008 and The Social Network in 2010. The first being about a card-counting MIT blackjack crew, and the second about the controversial founding of Facebook. In 2016, however, Mezrich published a book titled The 37th Parallel: The Secret Truth Behind America's UFO Highway. In it, he charts the story of Chuck Zukowski, a one-time law enforcement officer who actually lost that job when he started asking questions about UFOs. Since then, Zukowski has grown to become one of America's leading UFO specialists, fronting searches across multiple states, including Colorado, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and Nevada. Perhaps most famously of all, Zukowski has before found some seemingly unexplained debris close to the Roswell crash site. Here enters another figure, though, and this time one whose role is a little more mysterious from the outset: Robert Bigelow, the billionaire founder and president of Bigelow Aerospace. According to interviews given by Mezrich, Bigelow's company at one time became a kind of go-to group whenever a UFO was found. According to one TED Talk given by Mezrich in 2016, it was even an FAA policy that if a pilot ever saw something unexplained in the sky, they should report it to Bigelow and his private, not public, organization. From there, it's alleged that Bigelow would investigate, and indeed that he and Chuck Zukowski crossed paths on occasion too, especially following Zukowski's discovery of material at the Roswell site. It's not as though Bigelow is expressly linked with the theories surrounding the 37th parallel, but he certainly does have a long history of strong political connections, including a reported influence over the one-time Senator Harry Reid, particularly in the run-up to the U.S. government starting its Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, a previously secret UFO study held between the years 2007 and 2012. From its startup in 1995 to its closure in 2004, Bigelow also headed the National Institute for Discovery Science, another group set up to investigate anomalies, which usually doubled up as UFOs. It's perhaps unsurprising then that over the years his name has become almost synonymous with government knowledge of aliens and of potential cover-ups. So what does all of this really reveal? Officially speaking, still not a great deal. Chuck Zukowski has argued the case for years now that there's seemingly something significant happening along the 37th parallel, with the general idea apparently being that visiting aliens could be entering and leaving Earth precisely along this particular line of geography. Many of America's most famous UFO sites do feature along it, leading to the parallel also being widely referred to as either the extraterrestrial or paranormal highway. The potential cases date back to at least 1947 and the infamous Roswell crash. Although the theory has been given a new lease on life in more recent times thanks to Ben Mesrick's book, plus whispers that Zukowski's story might also be made into a Hollywood movie someday soon. But what's your verdict? Is there really a UFO line cutting through America? Or are the reported increased sightings plus strange mutilations merely by chance? Is Robert Bigelow's role a point of contention? Or are you unsurprised that UFO investigations might be leased out to a private firm? At the heart of the story is Chuck Zukowski. Many refer to him as an alien hunter. But whatever his job description is, he does appear determined to uncover the truth, whatever that is. At first glance, the 37th parallel is just another line of latitude, circling Earth and minding its own business. But look deeper, and in America at least, it runs like an express train through the heart of UFO country, linking up crash sites, bizarre sightings, and perhaps significantly, U.S. military bases. The parallel also drives through the center of many unofficial cover-up conspiracy theory. So what does America really know? And how far could that knowledge spread? The Army, the Air Force, the government? As the title of Ben Mesrick's book puts it, is there a secret truth that's still waiting to be known? For now, that's why some believe that there really could be alien technology hidden along the 37th parallel.
Many around the world believe in a god or gods, a supernatural being with powers beyond human comprehension. But while some argue that there could never be physical proof of God because that would take away faith and free will, others assert that there is evidence if you know where to look for it. And perhaps what better place to look than out into the vast unknown regions of space? Although various organizations have sent probes and people into space, NASA has sent more and been involved in more missions than any other entity in the world. From the Hubble and Webb telescopes, which observe objects millions of light years away, to explorers and rovers that wander the surface of other planets, to the Voyager spacecraft that have ventured beyond our solar system, NASA has created a powerful range of tools to explore the incredibly vast universe surrounding our little planet. The agency is in a unique position, therefore, to find answers to the questions humans have been wondering about since we were able to wonder. Where did we come from? How did we get here? While these questions may be answerable by scientific investigation, many see philosophical implications in them as well. Humans have always been extraordinarily curious. We seek patterns, reasons, and explanations for everything. We want to understand ourselves and the world around us, and those two investigations are intimately connected. As Carl Sagan once said, quote, "The cosmos is also within us. We are made of star stuff. We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." End quote. Therefore, it follows that in finding out more about the universe, NASA is also finding out more about us. However, discovering things isn't always the same as truly understanding them. For instance, the Hubble telescope recently spotted what appears to be a spiral of young stars in a galaxy near the Milky Way. Spirals are a fairly common shape in nature, but why would newly formed stars be spiraling toward a common center? Astronomers think a spiral may be the most efficient shape for star formation, but they aren't 100% sure. There are many more such mysteries when it comes to outer space, and some that are even more obscure. For example, if black holes draw in light and matter, should there be corresponding white holes that generate matter and energy? Einstein's theory of relativity suggests there should be, but signs of white holes remain entirely elusive. Then there's the issue of dark matter and dark energy, both of which seem to exist, yet have almost no defining characteristics. All we know is that the regular matter and energy we can measure takes up only a small amount of what should be there in total. Again, we've made discoveries, but we don't yet understand them. Can these mysteries eventually be solved with science? Scientists like to think so. But if not, what then? Are some things simply beyond human comprehension, and would that in itself indicate the presence of a higher being? Something that's more knowledgeable and powerful than ourselves? Many believe that yes, it would. And humans have been ascribing events they don't understand to the works of gods for thousands of years, including weather, diseases, the movements of the stars, and so on. Even now, when scientists or philosophers point to what might be called evidence of God, it generally consists of the unknown rather than the known. Things like what initiated the Big Bang, how life on Earth began, and how to define consciousness. We don't have a definite answer for any of those, so the answer, for some, is God. But if we could exclude things we don't know or don't understand yet, is there anything else that could constitute divine proof? Much depends on what kind of God we're talking about. There's an old paradox about God creating a weight too heavy even for God itself to lift. The question then arises that if the laws of physics were planned and set in motion by an all-powerful being, can that being break those laws? From our perspective, we talk of physical impossibilities. So if God were to exist and be beyond the physics we have, then no amount of searching by us will ever find God. Instead, God or gods would have to choose to reveal themselves. If an omnipotent God existed, it could presumably prove so by doing something that totally broke every known rule of time and space, if it wanted to. But then, how would we know that that was what was happening? Just one person seeing something peculiar isn't enough. Time and time again, the human brain has shown that it can create bizarre hallucinations that seem completely real, but only to the person experiencing them. True, unquestionable proof could only come en masse. Because what if there was something so huge and incredible, but also that was observable, testable, and accessible to multiple people? Which brings us back to the depths of space, the limits of the universe, and NASA. If anyone were in a position to view an object or an event that appeared to break the laws of physics, and more importantly, record it, it's astronomers and space researchers. Not least because these people deal in and around the speed of light and across all the foremost known extremes of our existence. For example, we of course know that while light travels incredibly fast, so much time has elapsed since the presumed beginning of the universe that we can only ever observe the light that's been able to reach us since then. But that means that there's still so much more for us to see, to an almost infinite degree, as the universe continually unfolds all around us. If you were looking for proof of God, then, what better place to concentrate on? With just one case study, we can see the enormous potential. In 2022, the University of Tokyo released images of a galaxy known as HD1, which is now claimed as the farthest away object in the universe to be observed. Its light took 13.5 billion years to reach us today, meaning it's only a few 100 million years old as per the Big Bang Theory. In galactic terms, it's a baby. Previously, in 2016, the Hubble Space Telescope had managed to locate the infant galaxy GNZ11, with light that had taken 13.4 billion years to get here. But NASA and the likes of are continually pushing that boundary, and we've never been closer than we are right now to reaching the beginning of the universal timeline, the start of all things. What happens when we get there? No one can predict with certainty, but those with their eyes most trained on that final destination are surely anticipating a revelation of some kind. Here lies the apparent potential for a meeting with God, and there follows the debate as to whether any one person or group with such knowledge would choose to share it with the world. Although NASA is a scientific institution dedicated to sharing knowledge, its policy on free and open data has an important qualifier. The organization cannot release information that's considered classified or sensitive by the national government. This makes sense in some ways, as neither the US nor other countries would want the public to be aware of the exact location of military aircraft and satellites, for example. But still, in general, the law does prohibit NASA from releasing information to the public if the government doesn't want them to. And with proof of God, would any government really want to show that? The often cited fears of mass hysteria and the general unpredictability of what could happen if the veil of God was lifted might well be enough for the powers that be to keep quiet, especially if the proof had somehow been found not on Earth, but far enough out into the cosmos. Such a God would still be watching us, yes, as is unavoidable with the general concept, but would be affecting us no more or less than ever before. Already, ideas on God divide the world, so could proof of God break it even more? For now, these questions are very open, but it still feels unlikely, perhaps impossible, that even something with as wide and deep a scope of knowledge as NASA could ever find itself covering up God. The government may be powerful, but it's not that powerful. And if a god or group of gods did want to make themselves known, they could probably do so without the approval of the White House, the military, NASA, or anyone else. Nevertheless, it's an intriguing path to travel down, because if not God, then what will be revealed as we venture farther into space and farther back in time? In recent years, NASA has hardly slowed down in its pursuit to answer the biggest questions of why and how we're here. So the broader question remains fair. What would NASA do if it discovered something to truly shake the foundations of human philosophy?
Which of these theories are you most convinced by? Anti-gravity UFOs being worked on in top secret? A decades-old alien satellite watching over our every move? A line of alien entry points cutting right across the heart of America? Or is it much bigger than even all of that? Because that's why the government really could be hiding proof of UFOs and God.
What do you think? Is there anything we missed? Let us know in the comments. Check out these other clips from Unveiled, and make sure you subscribe and ring the bell for our latest content.